Hey everyone, my name is Rooster and welcome back to Mechabellum. Today's video is all going to be about big flanks. It's something that you don't really see that much in high MMR, but every now and then someone is brave enough to try it, and that's exactly what Mully, our opponent, is going to be doing. Now, for the packs, I'm going to be picking up Sledgehammers with the Void Eyes here. I don't really pick for Void Eye, I mostly pick for Sledgehammer whenever I want to play defensive. Again, I think that these are really powerful, and the small amplifying cores that you get with the Amplify Specialist are probably best used on a unit like Sledgehammer that can use both the hit points and the attack quite effectively. I like my matchup here. I think I've got a pretty good setup against Crawler Mustang, and my opponent is a Farseer Specialist. So, because my opponent has both Crawlers and Mustangs, I think I have to pick up Arclights here and skip the Crawlers. Going Crawler is good too. Obviously, my opponent will only be relying on Mustangs, typically on round 1 here, and Crawlers are annoying for Mustangs to kill, but I don't think that Sledgehammers will be able to chaff clear all of this, so I feel like I should be going for Arclights. Now, of course, I don't know where he's going to end up. I was expecting some aggro, but I'm just going to have to go symmetrical and then react accordingly on the following rounds after I know where he's going to be. He sets up on the left side. We go Absorb on the Void Eyes round 1 here. I have mostly been using them as a round 1 energy absorption type of unit. I don't really buy more of them. I don't tech into them more than just this, but they can provide some nice tankiness throughout the game, and they can sometimes also give you some early game tempo. Now, back to big flanks, you don't see them that much in high MMR, typically because they do have some pretty big counters. Flanks take long to spawn in if you don't have quick TP. They're super vulnerable to things like missiles because you can't really intercept. And yeah, just reacting to it, right, with something having to spawn in for 2 seconds means that it's very, very hard to get good value out of it. On top of that, it will often be separate from your board, right? Hard to team up with your main army, whereas for the defender, they're often going to be close to their main army and be able to rotate effectively from having dealt with the flank to the main board. Either way, round 1 here, going all right. I do lose the tower to those very left crawlers, but we can just add some Arclights next turn, and it actually does look like we will win despite getting debuffed. So that kind of tells you how good this matchup is for me, being able to win even through those 9 seconds of debuff. Round number 2, we immediately get unit reinforcements here. And I'm thinking, okay, Fang doesn't seem very wise into Mustang. Stormcaller doesn't seem great either into Crawler Mustang. Rhino and Steel Ball both feel playable. I opt to go for the Steel Balls because level 2 Steel Balls on this round are hard to deal with. And of course, they do also beat that Rhino if my opponent decided to go for it. He goes for the Stormcallers instead, but we'll be able to pressure on the right side. And I can just use this item for now on the Steel Balls. Do I want to keep them here? I don't know. We'll have to see. Opponent levels the tower. I first think maybe I do want to keep building on top of it, and so adding a Crawler makes sense. But then I realized the left side was struggling quite a bit, and I added an Arclight here, and I want that Arclight to be able to survive. So let's use the Crawler on our main board, and we just use a missile on the right in case he adds anything on that side of the board. Opponent goes for a deep flank here. Double deployments used with a Hound and a Crawler. So, pretty serious stuff already. And while the Steel Ball does get in, sadly, both of my Arclights went down right before that debuff came in. And I kind of needed them to stay alive to be able to deal with these Mustangs and Crawlers. We're going to get debuffed yet again. And while the Steel Balls are doing a good job here of cleaning up the Stormcallers, we won't be able to deal with all of these small units. And it should mean that Mully here does bounce back and strikes back on round 2. So I've got a couple of things here to worry about. I've got that flank, and obviously I need more stuff in front of my Arclights, ideally, to make them survive. Either that, or I can give them range. Round number 3, shield airdrop here looks really good. I don't need any of those unit modifiers. I will sell out a Steel Ball because I expected him to put something there on the right side, and I didn't want to invest more to try and get in. And so I just use the money, retrieve the amplifying core, go range on the Arclights because both the crawlers and the mustangs are weak to this unit. And then I decide to put an arc light here on the deep flank to deal with this crawler hound flank from my opponent. Both of us are going to go for the shield airdrop, as I decide to put it all the way in the back, making sure that I don't cover my tower, because I want it to survive, since it's going to be very hard for my opponent to take this down. At the same time, it's not that easy for me to take down this shield either. So yeah, we're going to have a bit of a stalemate, but at least that does solve my problem for now. I'm also going to go for a crawler here in the front with a mobile beacon to try and distract these storms, and then also kind of screen for my arc light on the left. And I decide to give my arc light here the small amplifying core, because it is dealing with quite the onslaught of units with both the crawlers, the level 2 mustangs, and now the added farseer. Opponent opting to buy one there before he gets the free one next turn. And looks like that's doing pretty well. Stormcaller's also going to be DPSing silently from the back line. And I am pretty happy here about my arc light range. Seems like it's doing well. We managed to win the flank. I had some crawlers kind of get in as the hounds were stuck on the shield. And it seems like we should win. Although Stormcallers might be able to take out my arc lights. Can the crawlers get under the gun line? They can. So no matter what happens, we will be winning, but not by a big margin. And yeah, crawlers just going to slowly but steadily bite away at the Stormcallers, and eventually we will be winning. I do lose a tower, so it gets delayed a little bit more, but at least we don't take any more damage, and I get to kind of work on my setup, solidify my board, get more deployments down, and yeah, have a solid defense. Round number 4, efficient giant manufacturing here is worth considering if you'd want to play a giant. I don't really know what you want to play, maybe Vulcan, but I already have so many arc lights, it doesn't feel like that's correct. I kind of need to deal with the Farseer right now. I feel like I've got Shaft here covered, but I need something that can kill these units, because when they're left unchecked, they can get really, really scary. There was a subsidized crawler card, which my opponent actually decides to pick up. It's interesting for me as well. Although I will say I don't really have enough crawlers yet. If I had like 2 more, maybe I would have considered it, but with only the 1, it didn't seem like the right move. Instead, I go for super heavy armor, and I decide to pick up a Sabertooth, because Sabers are honestly pretty good into Farseers, and they obviously also use the bonus hit points really well from this item. And so I'm going to kind of create a new like little army here on the left to isolate this army as much as possible, and I add a crawler, an arc light, and a Sabertooth to make that possible. I'm hoping that the arc light can clear the way, and then the Sabertooth can lock on. The middle was looking really strong, so I don't really have to worry about that too much. I leveled my right tower because it was kind of exposed, and seems like I was right, a crawler flank coming in. And now my opponent deciding to add steel balls to his flank to get rid of my shield. Pretty decent move. We'll definitely be able to get rid of this. My arc light doesn't stand a chance, and so I do sadly lose that shield that was doing a good job of stalling the flank. Looks like left side wasn't really as successful as I was hoping it would be. Sabertooth just goes down, and that's a decent amount of damage dealt at the end of round 4. So, round number 5, intensive training shows up. Feel like that's a good pickup for me. Advanced power system makes sense for the aggressor here, as he's trying to push in as fast as possible. But the intensive allows me to upgrade the Sabertooth and make even more use out of that super heavy armor. We're now up to 77,000 hit points. And yeah, opponent starts to flank rather heavily here with crawlers on the line on the flank. So I think he's trying to make use of the subsidized crawler card. But yeah, right now he will have to spawn these guys in first. So I don't think he'll be able to do much this turn. We'll have to see. I also need to deal with this crawler on the bottom right. So I add an arc light there, and I kind of need to deal with this flank too. So I'm going to put a crawler here to make sure that these crawlers from my opponent kind of stay under the shield. That way the steel balls can lock on for long enough that they should get rid of it. And of course the steel balls should also be quite decent into the opponent's steel balls. Again, we're going to go for this mobile beacon. I'm also going for a cheeky missile there in the middle, as his units were spaced in such a way that I can actually hit the Mustang and the marksman there, so good value. Arclight levels picked up where possible, very important. In a situation where your opponent mostly is relying on smaller units. Steel balls will spawn in though and kill my Sabertooth, so might have to sell that at some point. And looks like the flank has been dealt with, so happy with that play there. Flank has been dealt with. Opponent apparently leveling his tower to level 3 now, so he is burning some cash. Just trying to preemptively deal with a right-sided attack. And we don't win big, but, you know, looks like we have stabilized as my Arclights managed to clutch up. And so we do take a win on round 5. Round 6. No unit drops just yet, so we're expecting those on round 7. And here, I could take Orbital Bombardment, but not sure if it's that worth. I mean, there are some useful units to hit, but if my opponent shields, then, which he can do because he has shield airdrop, then I don't think I will get that much value out of it. Instead, I'm going to just skip, get as much money as possible, and here I'm thinking, alright, I think my opponent is going to try and tech their crawlers. But the crawlers that are there are level 1. And I'm not even sure if he's going to go replicate and impact drill. What I can do here is just elite recruit crawlers and go both replicate and impact drill. That way, if he goes only one of the two, I win, no matter the levels. And even if he goes both, because I have level 2 crawlers, I will win as well. And so it doesn't really matter that he has subsidized crawler here, because if he doesn't win, then he doesn't get experience and he doesn't get value out of this card. And this is something that you can definitely use defensively. There are a couple units that are really good at defending flanks. Those are going to be things like Wasp, like Wraith, and crawlers in certain scenarios can be super useful as well if your opponent hasn't really gotten to adding a lot of chaff gear units on the flank, right? He has one Hound, but keep in mind, Hounds don't one-shot same level crawlers. And they definitely don't one-shot level 2 crawlers. Gonna use a missile here on the left, even if he goes for the shield, which he uses on the middle of the flank. This would have landed before the shield would have. So we get a lot of value here, and you can already see this horde of crawlers starting to replicate because of that double tech and level difference. And yeah, we're really overwhelming the enemy right here. Sabertooth honestly doing a decent job. We don't quite manage to get that shield, sadly, but overall I think looks like a good round here. And all of our Arclights still alive. And all that's required now is to take down these Stormcallers. We will even be able to take down one of his shields that he purchased. We get a missile 2 crawlers there, splitting off from the main pack. Stormcallers hitting quite well, I will say. Taking out a big pack of units, but our play was successful. And now, round number 7, we were expecting these. We get the unit drops. Now, for my opponent, he needs to get some sort of chaff clear, I think. So Fire Badger was one of the options that I was expecting. And while I decided to go for Scorpion, because my opponent added more steel balls, and level 1 Scorpions one-shot level 1 or level 2 steel balls, so this is really useful. You go for immediate range. I honestly can sell out of this Sabertooth at this point, which I will do, and we can just repurpose that onto one of our Scorpions. Level the Arclights where we can, and level the Crawlers, of course, where we can as well. We're already up to level 3 Crawlers now here in front of those level 1s. One Fire Badger goes on the main board, one will have to spawn in, but again, no quick TP, so this will take a while, and that's one of the problems, right? Trying to react to how someone is defending against your flank. It's really difficult because you have to keep spawning in units, which is something that isn't the case on your main army. Opponent trying to move in here. I'm going to go for a Crawler all the way in front. Just trying to stop anything from insta-locking, any missiles from killing my units. And we're even going to go for a mobile beacon there, trying to pull the units into this Scorpion if I can. And let's see, I go for 2 level 2 marksmen because I realized I didn't have any anti-air. And another option for my opponent here could have been to go for Wraith. Probably would have been wise, seeing that I didn't have any anti-air. So I'm just trying to make sure that I deal with all of the options. And we even took the second defense enhancement, by the way. So you can see my Arclight is awfully tanky against that marksman. Even manages to win out. And yeah, the hit points are just so useful here in the crawler matchup. I'm trying to just stay ahead. I've got the double techs, I've got the levels, and then I've also got that hit point difference because my opponent hasn't gotten to those second enhancements yet. And that should give me the edge. But yeah, you can see here, really, really powerful turn. Again, we managed to get good value from replicating the flank. The scorpions are lovely, and seems like we have managed to kind of, yeah, pull apart the opponent's flank. Round number 8, enhancement module shows up, but I feel like I can probably close this in one, so that item is too expensive in my opinion to go for. Now we'll pick up the additional deployment slot instead, allowing me to get 4 deployments. I'm seeing here on the right side there's a bit of an attack going on, so I can probably add some crawlers here, some crawlers to deal with this flank and replicate. Of course, they'll have to be elite recruited. And then apart from that, I mean, there's not much else that needs to be done, I think. Opponent sells out of the hounds, it looks like, and replaces them with fire badgers. Again, they will have to spawn in, so that'll take some time. These ones have spawned, but I do think the level 3 crawlers will take a little while to kill. I even miss all the crawlers here to try and get to the fire badgers as fast as possible. The scorpion might be able to help out. It is kind of aimed in that direction. And yeah, you can see here, crawler, crawler, another level 2 scorpion being added on top of things. And that is simply looking very, very good. A crawler here in front as well to try and prevent any insta-locks on my Arclights and Scorpion. Opponent goes for a nice play here though. Utilizes the oil to set it on fire and try to burn all of my crawlers so I don't get any value from replicating on the flank. Scorpion though with the missiles will lock onto the fire badger. Sadly we don't quite take them out in time, so the fire will land, but at the same time this also burns his small units. And while I say that, look at this. Crawlers managing to find a little corridor without fire and circumventing their demise. On the right side, we're getting in, of course, managing to replicate off of that crawler and marksman. And with the impact drill, the tower goes down pretty fast. And with this many scorpions, sledges, and crawlers still alive, that will simply be game after 8 rounds. So, that is the game. I kind of wanted to show this, even though it is a relatively one-sided game. It's a clean defense. And I think that's something that I wanted to show to you guys, because I know that in lower MMRs or at the casual level, these type of games could get out of control really fast, because you might not know how to react to these type of big flanks, right? Now, this is one of the options that you can do here, because I see these crawlers being positioned on the line. I know that I can get ahead. Of course, I do have to be wary that I elite recruit, so I have a level advantage, and I ideally double tech, so I'm prepared, right, against the worst case scenario, which would be an immediate double tech from my opponent. Other options here could be to just buy a Wraith. Wraith is fantastic at dealing with flanks. It can shoot at all different units. It doesn't get stuck. So yeah, very, very efficient unit. Especially if you run Degen Beam, it's very hard to counter Degen Beam on flanks. It's almost impossible to get Photon down. So that is a nice unit to try and deal with big flanks as well. And then Wasps will often be your best friend. If even against like smaller flanks, something like a Hound flank, which is quite popular, or an Arclight, you can go for things like a Wasp, because there's not many units that can deal with it, and that often means that the Wasp will just come out ahead. I guess a final mention goes out to Rhino, can be really useful too. You will often see people kind of leave gaps in front of the flanks to add a Rhino in front in case there is an Arclight, and Whirlwind can be great too. If your opponent puts like big sledges on the flanks, then Whirlwind Rhino can be ideal, because it's hard to deal with the Rhino when it's all the way at the back of an opponent's board, right? It's not that hard to deal with when it's on the main army and you can easily lock onto it with a Melt or a Steel Ball, but spawning Steel Balls on a flank is, yeah, not that easy to do, and even against Whirlwind can be problematic. Anyway, I'm done yapping, talking through all of the different ways of of defending flanks. I hope that you liked this. If you did, please leave a thumbs up. Let me know down below what you thought of it. Do you use crawlers in this way? Are you struggling with big flanks, or are you the guy that loves to use big flanks? Put it down there. If you want to stay up to date on latest content, please consider subscribing. And if you want to see me play live, check me out on Twitch. With that being said, take care, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye-bye.